Welcome back, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm super pumped for this video. This is something I had no idea existed. I was just sitting there going through my YouTube last night trying to fall asleep. I came across this video and I was like, I gotta react to it because this has got to be something good. Did you know that Germany had its own Colosseum? Something I didn't know. Yeah, I thought the Colosseum was strictly Italy. Like, I thought it was just right there in Rome. Yeah, that's the only one that, not, I guess I shouldn't say the only one that existed, because my favorite sports team's stadium looks like the Colosseum. But just like the OG Colosseum, I had no idea that Germany had their own version of it. So I'm super excited to get into this video. Hopefully you guys are as well. It's about a 9-minute video. But yeah, let's just hop into it. The German Colosseum that nobody knows exists.
Found out that Germany has its own ancient Roman amphitheatre. So naturally I travelled hundreds of miles to show it to you in this video, where we'll talk about why this forgotten little German town was once important enough to get its own mini Colosseum,
and definitely a mini Colosseum
relates to the downfall of both the Roman Empire and the Third Reich. This is the town of Xanten, which sits in the very northwest of Germany along the Rhine between Cologne and the Dutch border, and whose story is a fascinating cycle of rise, fall, and rise again. It's the only town in Germany beginning with the letter X, and a lovely place that most people have never heard of.
Most people, I've never heard of it, but I tell you what, just some of the pictures, or excuse me, the video shots that he's shown so far of it, it's a beautiful little town, as is what I think most of all little European towns are. They just have this quaint beauty to them. So,
but here's one guy that you probably have heard of, Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
His campaigns through what is now France pushed the Roman territory right up to the Rhine, but no further, because on the other side there were all these big scary Germanic people. So the Romans established a fort here on this side of the river with about 10,000 soldiers stationed there around 10 BC, which means that construction started here just barely before this other guy that you've heard of comes into the picture. And later on in this story, he's actually going to be very relevant to the conservation of this site and why it still exists instead of having been built over. The original fort here was a launching point for Roman campaigns into Germania, some of which almost didn't fail, although some of them, like their famous away match against the big scary Germans at Teutoburg Forest, failed badly enough to signal the beginning of the end of Roman dominance and expansion.
See, just so far right here, I should have known that there was a Colosseum somewhere in here, because I forgot just how vast the Roman Empire did become. So I should have known that they had their own little mini Colosseum in there.
This, coupled with chaos and civil wars back in Rome, left the area vulnerable to raids by the local tribes, and the Roman base here was eventually destroyed in a revolt. So after the civil wars, when a new emperor wants to repair Rome's tough guy image and reassert strength and permanence on the frontiers, what better propaganda project to invest in than going back to this spot on the Rhine and building not just a fortress, but a modern city? And that's how we get this version of the settlement, Colonia Ulpia Traiana, inaugurated later under Emperor Trajan, who bestowed upon it the status of colony, the highest honour for Roman cities.
Wow.
Sitting right where the Rhine meets other rivers, the colony of course became a hugely profitable trading hub, allowing it to spend big on these huge defensive walls, temples, bathhouses supplied by state-of-the-art aqueducts, and what I was most jealous of, homes with underfloor heating. Still being able to...
I swear, I think back in the day they were more technologically advanced than we realize. Under the floor heating in a home in 10 BC or close to BC. Yeah, I mean close to 0 BC at this time. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Walk around the full original grid-shaped footprint of this city today is a really unique experience, and the lovingly reconstructed buildings and gardens really sell the immersion, along with an extensive on-site museum and mock-ups of Roman interior design choices. But the main attraction was, and undoubtedly still is, this amphitheatre. The colony was granted its own mini Colosseum, seating about 10,000 spectators who would come here to see gladiator fights, animal hunts, and public executions right on this spot. Building the entire city was essentially a projection of Roman power, but this amphitheatre in particular was a major flex to show that even so far from Rome, up here where it was much colder, residents could engage in cultural events and still feel like they belonged to the bigger picture. And stood here on the lovingly reconstructed banks of seating that stand on top of the original foundations, it's easy to imagine
kind of
the
a genius
atmosphere
idea.
that must have accompanied events here. It featured a clever system of pulleys and trapdoors that was used to dramatically lift entertainers into the arena, or to add new exotic animals into an ongoing brawl.
It's kind of a genius idea to think that, they allowed them to experience the Roman life so far north. It's just such a morale boost to them, but people don't necessarily realize it's happening to them. That's a good idea.
Ultimately, though, power plays like this city could only stem the tide of Roman decline and keep barbarians from the gate for so long, and more raids by Franks and Germans led to the slow downfall and eventual abandonment of the colony over the next few centuries. In all, not an entirely unfamiliar story for Roman settlements in this area, so the question remains, why can I come and walk around this one in the open air when other Roman cities in Northern Europe like London or Cologne are completely underground? In other words, why is Xanten not built on top of the Roman city? The answer, like I said earlier, is basically because Jesus. But to be more specific, the answer actually lies in this amphitheatre, and in one specific event that may or may not have happened inside of it. The late Roman Empire went through a long period of religious persecutions, feeding a lot of Christians to a lot of lions in a lot of amphitheatres, including this one. And Romans didn't bury the dead within their city walls. They had cemeteries a fair way out, meaning that they gradually built up an out-of-town mass grave with the bones of dead Christians who refused to convert, which again is actually nothing unusual for that era, of course, until Christianity eventually becomes mainstream, meaning that that's no longer just a mass grave. It's a treasure trove of the relics of fallen martyrs, and enough people go to these graves to worship them that a chapel is built on the site, and the medieval town, of course, spreads out from the chapel until one day you replace it with an enormous cathedral, and suddenly you have Xanten. This is the Cathedral of St. Victor today, standing right at the heart of the German town.
I just can't get over how just gorgeous your cathedrals are. I mean, they're just so amazing. Every one I see is just incredible looking. Oh my goodness.
Victor of
Sorry, I say that every
Xanten
time.
is a saint in the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, having been martyred inside the amphitheatre here for refusing to worship the pagan gods. Relics were big business in the medieval era for attracting Christian pilgrimage tourism, and this cathedral has claimed to have his bones in its crypt since the 1200s, very similar to how claims about the three wise men drive tourism to Cologne. The problem is that Victor's first mention in the historical record is around 300 years after his supposed death, so like in any such cases, nobody can ever say for sure that he even existed, let alone, where he was killed and where his bones are today. But what's important isn't the truth of his legend. What's important is the truth of the belief in his legend, and it's clear people believed in it, because rallying around the cult of St. Victor invigorated the local population and drew more settlers in from afar, until this new Xanten again became a fairly good regional player in the new medieval world. The whole place is even named after his sainthood. The town was, of course, partly built by using the ruins of the old Roman city next door as a kind of open-air quarry from which stone could be looted, which contributed to the ruins' poor conservation over the next 1,000 years.
Wow.
The medieval cathedral itself was then badly damaged in World War II, where Xanten once again came into sharp focus. Allied troops coming from the west faced extreme resistance in these first few towns across the Dutch border, as German morale had not yet sunk to the lows that it eventually would, and Xanten was only liberated after days of intense house-to-house fighting that cost the lives of over 400 Canadian troops. But unlike other areas of West Germany that also had to rebuild after the war, Xanten had one very particular currency it could spend to get people interested in it again: the unobstructed ruins of a Roman city on the edge of town. And in the 1970s, when excavation and reconstruction of this site first started, the dig allowed Germany and its near neighbors to kind of distract themselves from the recent, very fraught relationships and focus on common ground in learning about a shared pan-European history. And today, if you're passing through northwest Germany on the right day, you may even get to see live music, theatre, or historical reenactments from one of these seats.
That's
Although
cool.
I imagine the chance to pay to see brutal violence here is long gone.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see another one of my field trip.
Wow, that's really cool. That was a really good video. I really enjoyed that. Tom Thornton. Tom, thank you for a great video, because I had no idea that the Colosseum in Germany even existed. I wasn't anywhat aware of that. And the history behind it, you know, the fall of the Roman Empire, the fall of the Third Reich, you know, having that city be damaged and then them using it to rebuild and to bring attraction into it, just such a cool thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video as much as I did, because I thought it was brilliant. I really did. I thought that was great. And you know, if I ever do get the chance to come overseas, man, that's a little bit of something I'd like to see. That's a little bit of something that I would like to just take a day trip over and see, because that's just a little mini Colosseum that has so much history that's absolutely insane. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video as much as I did. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with all your friends. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.